Hello and welcome to Real Food. I don't know if you have a green thumb. My thumb is kind of green, but I have a great admiration for people who work the land. Whether driving on the east end of Long Island or across our great state or country, it's so evident that God's work of the miracle of creation is all around us. And we sometimes forget this in our own food. We forget that this tomato at one time was a seed and it was nourished by a number of people who cared for it, worried about it, watered it, before it came to my hand. And sometimes it's about sensitizing ourselves to creation that puts us in the presence of the holy. We recently had the privilege to visit the greenhouses of Copert Cress Micro Vegetables. Their company is all about using the gifts from the earth to enhance our food, but also as a healthy substitute to most ingredients. Let's take a look at this fascinating visit. Well, we're finally at Copert Cress, and I'm with Nicholas, who's going to tell us all about this amazing technology and the wonderful effort that goes into these micro vegetables. We're going to put a name and a face on the things that we often take for granted. It's going to be very exciting. Nicholas, this place is amazing. Tell us, very rudimentary, what are micro vegetables? What is this place all about?
Well, it's very easy. The concept is coming from Europe. In fact, our company, what we do, we look for all the unknown heirloom varieties of aromatic herbs. So, for example, if somebody just knows 5 varieties of basil, we will look in all the other possible 300 varieties that exist in the wild. And it's all what we do. We look for all those crazy herbs, and we bring them for the top restaurants mostly.
Now, that's the other thing. These ingredients are extremely flavorful. I mean, this is an amazing, intense flavor that is grown. How does that happen? I mean, how come the flavor is so intense?
Well, many people are used to get kind of processed food, and they are used to believe that only processed food tastes good.
Right.
And when we come up with all those herbs who are coming from Africa, India, China, we all grow them here, but we look for them all around the world, and when they taste it, they say, it's not natural. How is it possible? We say, yes, it is.
Yeah.
We just have to don't forget where all our herbs, and when you look all those crazy varieties, like for example, if I will make you taste one. So this is basically the idea.
And that's how you grow it, right? Oh, here, yeah, you can show.
Absolutely. So if you see, all of them grow in a clean, natural fiber. So it's also food safe, but it's also 100% natural fiber, so there's no dirt, so the chef can work with it in the kitchen without having to wash it, and the flavor are completely amazing. So basically what we do, all those plants, they are just in fact now what we call babies. That means that they are between 5 days to 5 weeks old. For the most of them, but all of them will become real trees or real plants. We just grow them when they are still very tiny and full of flavor. For example, this one here would just taste like Dijon mustard.
Like Dijon mustard, really? Let me try some.
Try that.
Now, and again, these are just almost like sprouts, right? You would say they're very, very young.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it tastes just like Dijon mustard. Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. People are so used to get just flavor that just very, very mild or not very pronounced or too pronounced, and we look for all those crazy varieties. And this Dijon mustard, people say, oh, but there's different layers, you won't feel it straight away and it's coming on. So we look for all those plants who are totally natural. That's what we do. And the difference, people the most of the time say, oh, your sprouts, yeah, but don't think about it too much as a sprout, because what people think about sprout as the one that you can find grown in the dark, in the big drums. They say, if you come to my greenhouse, you will see that it's open space, it takes the sun, and
spotless. I mean, clean and spotless. And I think that's also part of this science. I mean, this is truly science that we're involved in here. And you even mentioned a little bit that it involves a little bit of God's work too, because it's just so amazing, these varieties and the intensity of these varieties, and how these seeds kind of care for themselves. This is happening right here on Long Island, which is another amazing part of this. I mean, you were saying, talk a little bit about the free trade work that you do too, because that's fascinating work.
That's one plant that I like to mention all the time. For example, there's this one here that is called the tahun.
Tahun, it's called?
Yes, it's actually a sprout from a tree from Tibet. That means that this plant is actually a tree of 50 feet high.
Wow.
That means that it just looks very innocent, but it's a tree. So basically what I hold in my hand is nearly a small forest.
I was just going to say, that's a small forest right in itself.
Absolutely. So if you try this...
Now I'll be eating a tree right now.
Exactly. That's the first time that you can eat a tree.
Yes,
and this one, the most amazing part...
And it's from Tibet, you said?
Yes, and it tastes like the forest after the rain. You'll have mushrooms, garlic, onion, wet leaves, smoke, so many flavors. And the story behind this plant is that the very, very exciting part is that to know always where the plant is coming from. And people always imagine a huge company, but it's not the case for all those plants. For example, for this one here, since it's a tree, you cannot really produce that in a field. You cannot really produce it within 2 years and say, okay, I'm going to harvest this summer, I'm going to harvest all the seeds, since it's a tree. So the thing that we do, we have a fair trade program with a school in Tibet that is harvesting the seeds from the tree, because the tree only produces seeds 15 days during the year.
Wow.
So they harvest enough seeds for us, and we sponsor them like with a fair trade program.
Isn't that great?
And they harvest enough seed. We have a unique plant.
Wow.
And that holds the story. So it's always nice to, like I just explained, to care more about just what you buy, to think about what people bring to you, how do they live.
And you can see that in what you do in these different packs that are available. Now, we're going to talk more about that later, but these soon, you said, will be available in whole food markets throughout the country?
Yes, I believe that by the end of the year or beginning of 2010, we should be able to find some of them by Whole Food, yes.
And we'll have their website on the up on the screen, too, so you'll get a chance to take a look. One last thing. Now, this somebody gave me when I came in. Now, when I met you, you gave me one of these. Now, this is called a Sichuan button, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, this, I only had a half of one before, and I couldn't speak for a few minutes because this does an incredible experience in your mouth. I mean, what it does is creates a, what would you say? I mean, explain.
It's very simple. Like the Sichuan button, because we do all those herbs that grow in a kind of natural fiber, but we have also some of the plants that we discover. We say, okay, they are too big or they are too slow to grow. How we can do? And we take the leaves and say, oh, the leaves are fantastic. So we'll just sell the leaves in a small package. And some of them, it's a flower, which is just amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing about this plant, it's a plant actually, as you said, Sichuan button is coming from Africa, but you find it mostly in all the continents. It's a very, very, very old plant. Basically, the most of the time, as a general rule, when you find a plant in every continent or every part of the world, it means that the plant was so old that it was originated when the continent was still connected all together.
Wow, isn't that
so? And this plant here is actually used in Africa as food safety. They cook it with meat to kill all the bad bacteria.
That's something.
And this plant, as you said, when you taste it,
oh boy, I have to say.
It's not exactly a taste, it's more a feeling.
Yeah.
When I describe it, people look at me and say, you're very strange, because when I say how it tastes like a 9-volt battery. If you ever been a kid and if you ever try to put your tongue on a 9-volt battery,
right.
Well, most of the guys do that. The girls sometimes look at me and say, why do you do that? So that's a guy thing, I guess. But if you just taste it, it will kind of make a kind of 9-volt pop rocks feeling on your tongue without affecting your taste buds. So we have many places in New York City, many restaurants who make cocktails, or we make even sorbet, ice cream with it, and you still have the flavor and this everlasting feeling on it.
And it comes back, your mouth comes back to normal right away. You know, it's a really amazing thing. Nicholas, we're going to take, so I know we've taken a look around and everything, we're going to cook with all of this stuff back in the studio, which is going to be terrific too. I think that's important. So thanks for your hospitality here too. It's great to be with you too, really exciting. But now we'll do the important part. We're going to eat some of this stuff and cook with some of this stuff too. That'll be great.